All right, let's see. Audio is working. Participants in chat. I'm going to write this up here so I can have notes myself. You guys watch this. You're watching this from after the fact. We're starting in approximately 10 minutes. And this one's for me, policing. So that way I can look at the board whenever I first start the video and realize here's where I need to put this video for this class, because I won't remember otherwise. In the meantime, I'm going to run down the hall real quick, and when I get back, we'll see if anyone's here, and then if there is, we'll start a conversation. If not, we'll pick up class in 10 minutes. See you then. Admit all. Okay. It looks like you should be able to hear me. Okay, that one's okay. There's an error with one person's internet. See what lets them in. Okay. One came in. There it goes. There's the other one. All right. Cool, cool, cool. Excellent. We got 5 more minutes remaining. And so as we start, probably just start small talking and thinking about things we need to be doing. If you haven't seen it as of yet this morning, somewhere between last night and today, I got onto Blackboard and opened up a whole bunch more stuff for you all. I think I popped out some quizzes and such. If you give me a sec, what I'll do is I'm going to pull up
For Action. It is an app which you can find in the Apple App Store or the Google Play Store.
There we go. All right. There's that. So you got about 5 minutes. All right. And let's see. Pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see. Policing. Policing. PowerPoint. That kind of stuff. Oh, okay. I did put some stuff out there. Yep, I put a quiz and assignment out there. Excellent. First 3 chapters. And this one is Walker. So chapter 2. I need to go pretty fast through this stuff. Political error, we talked about that. Roosevelt, Bulmer. I don't care, no quizzes on that kind of stuff, but I don't care about that. Fairly progressivism. Okay. Not a whole lot in that one left. That's too far back. So we got to about here, I think. All right, so that's chapter 2. Let's pull open chapter 3. Admit. All right, let's see if this downloads. There it goes. Chapter 3. All right, we can go pretty fast through this. It's going to talk about size. Okay, I should probably talk about that. Okay. We might talk a little bit of organizational stuff a little bit. Looks like in chapter 3, when they start talking about law enforcement as an industry, that's where they start bringing in some of those organizational elements. You see that there. Basically, what it is, they start talking about the establish department sizes, force allocation, that kind of stuff. Where people, where you put the people. Admit. 2 minutes. Tell me what's going on in the world. I don't know. I'm just looking at you now. Thank you for coming today. The hell is everybody else? I'm looking at you guys online. I know some of you aren't nearby, but some of you might be. I don't know. I almost want to tell a couple stories about that, but I'm not going to. It's too scary. It's like IP addresses and stuff like that. It's like, yeah, if you know what you're doing, those things, you can track those. I know you're close. No, I don't. I would. I think it's just funny. That person. And so we're going to remind me where we left off last time. So to the point where we started talking about the patrol car and how life had changed in policing and the stuff that technology had done a little bit. Whenever I look at the PowerPoint, it gives me, I think this is where I left off here, where it's talking about two-way radio and that kind of stuff. But we can back up if we need to, because I know we talked some about history, talked a little bit about some of the different eras of policing and the different ways you can look at it. Basically, you start looking at the different changes in society, realize that that's basically just like an era of policing. Every time it happens, life changes, so does the nature of policing itself. And that's how they make those distinctions. Admit, here we go. And so it's literally those things, those bounce back and forth. It's always going to move together like that. I'd be like, political era, you're thinking, prohibition era up into basically a little bit before that, but Bulmer comes in, starts cleaning things up, so do a few other people, that kind of stuff. The establishment of this field, that's August Bulmer. He's one of the most important for this discipline because it's the only reason we have it. Think about things on the big scale, it's sort of like criminal justice itself, think of it as a field. What it is it's a gavel, so it's a hammer. Sometimes it's a executioner sword kind of thing, right? So very, very difficult stuff we're dealing with. In terms of life, I've talked about in terms of error, but usually sometimes better go in terms of positives and negatives. It's like the most negative things about life. If you're going to have to deal with that on the regular every single day and not know what exactly you're getting into, having a field that educates you and prepares you for that is ideal, right? Because you need something to balance that out. Otherwise, you're dead. That kind of a thing. Yeah, it's one of those things that's really, really interesting to think about it because it's literally balancing the scales out there. It's what drives a lot of stuff in policing as it is in terms of the research. So it's and legal issues and all that other stuff. It's all tied together. Okay. So when we start getting into those changes, technology is the big one. Start getting prohibition era vehicles, then it's radios, and then it just goes off from there until everybody has a computer in their pocket, kind of thing. Right. And so think that, computers in patrol cars started, how many decades ago? That kind of thing. So it's like each of those, to some degree, what it adds in is it adds in more ability. Also, it removes you from being actively. And so the more you have that happen, the more negative it can become. But communication is a key point in all facets of life. We talked about commissions, so I'm not going to get back into that. Talked about the Kansas City. How much did I talk about the Kansas City Preventive Patrol experiment? I think I talked about it real fast at the end of the class.
Absolutely.
Okay, so basically what is Kansas City is experimental playground. It's the same person. No, it's a different person. Good. All right, let's see here. Admit. So the Kansas City Patrol experiment, basically what they did is they divided the city up into sections. And they had the question of, does patrol actually do anything at all? Because deterrence itself became a question of society a few decades back, almost like right now, right? If you think about it, it's like, does deterrence work? Well, it's not very good, but if you can get people to actually think about it, it will, and it will hold society together. But that's a different conversation for a different thing. So what they did is they want to test and see. So I can't remember exactly how they had it set up. I can't remember if they had 3 sections of the city or 4. Can't remember. But we'll say 3 just for simplicity's sake. We'll say that this is Kansas City, right? We'll divide it into 3 sections. We'll say that they're equal as best as we can make them. So we're going with patrol. And so what we're going to do is, we have our baselines already established. We know where crimes are taking place to some degree. At least we have numbers we track on that shouldn't really change unless we make any changes. The only times they should change is when society changes, right? Shouldn't be a product of us so much unless society's changing. And when it's in this area, it shouldn't be them at all. It's the courts, right? Hey, we got a problem here. Courts have identified that. We'll take care of it. That's how one of those things works. There's feedback systems in all these different aspects of criminal justice. So in this one, so we've got our baselines. We're going to divide it into 3 different levels, right? Baseline is 1. We're going to keep patrol here. We're going to take it away from here, and we'll increase it here. So this is just a plus. This is 0 increase. And then this one's negative. That's a methods lesson, also logic structures. If you don't know what way things are, the first way is just to break them up. Is it positive, negative? Is there a neutral? Then you got 1 to 3 options kind of thing. And then you break that out across the different options that you have, different potential variations. That'll be methods in a little bit. Okay. You know what they found whenever they ran this for a period of time is and don't know. What do we know? We're horrible at running experiments and life's all over the place, right? That's what happened with this one, essentially. It's like, you'll have people make definitive conclusions on it. If they have make definitive conclusions on it, really what you should be like. So basically what you're saying is you don't know. Yes. Good. I like not knowing things. It means there's something to learn, right? In this instance, what happened was, think about how many people were involved in this. Of course, you have all the crimes and the citizenry, but imagine that they're more passive, right? Because they're might be offenders, but they're also victims. They're going to be passive, we'll be active. We're not going to be active here, though. There's victims there. If I'm a police officer and I think what I do matters, what do? Do the damn job anyway. And that's what happened. There's a big flaw with that. Is like, hey, every time that we get a call in here, the police officers from over here and over here, they're going to take their sweet ass time if it's not an emergency one, because they want to drive all the way around and be seen with their lights on. Because they know that area has zero patrol and that will have some dangerous areas in it. And so they want to be seen because that's their job. They know if they're seen, there's less crime. That parked vehicle out at the intersection, police officer's vehicle, causes everybody to slow down. It works. It's obvious it works. Just open your eyes, kind of. But people ignore it because they want to see it in the numbers too, and they don't measure it well. And you have that going on at the same time. But that's methods. I'm going to stop talking about that. Just talk about that now. Anytime there's a call, they go through here. Whenever we get dispatched, where are they getting dispatched from to? That kind of thing. For their patrols over here, if they're somewhere off over here and they got to go over here, they'll cut through. Why? They know that area is not getting patrolled. They desperately want to find any reason to get in and make sure everything's okay. It's like asking a guard dog to stand by while someone's raiding whatever it is they're protecting. Like, oh, let me go. Yeah, that's what happened here. What they find is there's no effect. Why? Well, you got a whole bunch of people who aren't really following the script here. Right? That's one of the things. In some places they found it did have an effect. Some places they found that it didn't. And so it literally is all over the places. They replicated a few different times. Overall thing that most people take from it is that patrol doesn't work. What it is maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. What we learned there was, boy, we can't control anything. Not even this. That's the lesson. It's not about control. It's about responsibility. You have some people who do want to take responsibility for things. Welcome to this field. It's just us. Wait a second. That's Richard Pryor. He does it on the opposite side because it's also just us there too. You know, we're people. We're all just people here. One of those things. It's really interesting because people do that all the time. It's like I don't understand that. All right, so that's the Kansas City experiment. In a nutshell, it's a bit more complex than that. There's a lot of issues with it. But what it was is the first foray into trying to some degree, see if there is anything you can control. You use control there. It's like, yeah, that is what it is. Okay, so that's Kansas City experiment very, very quickly. I don't know what the book will tell you. Read it. Tell me what it says. That kind of thing. I've read it before, but it's been some time since I looked at it in this textbook. And if you want to read it. I probably have a PDF of the actual experiment itself if you want to read it. That's one of those things that, yeah, you need to read stuff like that too, because you'll get a different picture for things. Then it talks about new developments, Hispanic police officers, women in policing, those types of changes. That's going to be, I don't know if we'll get too heavy into it at this point in time. Whenever we get the organization stuff, we'll have to talk about that because it's one of those things that's really, really interesting because it identifies the crux of the dilemma. It's like we've got a problem that's going to be both positive and negative in nature. And as we're dealing with it, we want to focus on the positives. It's going to bring some negatives with it. And there's positives on both sides. And so you have to weigh those things. It's like, oh my goodness. Yeah. But we'll talk about that when we talk about organization stuff. I think I mentioned that last time. Basically what it is when you watch and see how the organization itself moves, you get an idea for its actual intents. Again, sort of like with people in the law. With that one, what you'll look for is as they're trying to address that need, because that is a definite need to have the population and the police be reflective of one another. There's always that line people put in where they're not. they'll separate them out. So you need to have that reflection there to address that to some degree. But is that your number one concern at any one point in time? It's like, I can't answer that. Because it might be, then again, it might not be. But what really is a problem for people is when they run into the situation where they know it isn't that, right? Small town kind of thing. It's like you're holding out for someone particular for a position. It's like, okay, you're holding out based on that need or is that favoritism? It's like you can't distinguish it because that's what the process does is it's trying to address favoritism. And so are you using the same processes and doing the same thing and getting the same results in a different direction? Does that make it any better? That kind of stuff. But we'll get into that one. It gets real confusing. Police unions, those spread in the 1960s and 70s. Who else is on the police union stuff? I can't remember. I can't make any definitive statements about that. I want to say that they don't have any nationalized one, but I can't remember that. The unions, though, there are like most things are a double-edged sword because what they do is they add some level of protection to insulate the police from to some degree from political influence. But what they are is their own political influence. And so there you go. Anytime you start dealing with numbers of people, you start dealing with politics again, and then people always go to the power and control thing. Okay, early intervention systems. I think I might actually breeze through that one real quick. Basically, what they're talking about there is ways to identify that people are starting to shift up in negative directions. All those metrics that they have across people, across officers, across things, they track that so that they can catch things early. It's pretty straightforward with that. Racial profiling, you know what that is. You know that it exists. You know that it's a lot worse than just that, but also people confuse things that aren't this for that, but we'll get into that. I don't care about these people at all. Anything as of late within the last probably couple decades is important, but what they do is they spend way too much time and attention on it when they need to talk about the history. And that's kind of what I think that's an opinion thing. Okay, that's the end of that one. We can move into chapter 3. Yay. Chapter 3 is where things start getting a little bit better. Okay. I'll share this one with you guys here because beforehand I'm just kind of talking about stuff and showing you. So here, I'll put it up on the screen a little bit. So they start talking about the form of it, the structure. We've already been doing it. So we get to skip all that. That's awesome, right? We don't need to talk about state, federal, county, city, that kind of stuff. Or special districts like schools or territories and things like that. So yay. That discussion that we had at the beginning of this semester a couple weeks back. We don't have to have it again. Yay. Let's make this a little bit bigger. I would put it on a slideshow, but I don't like whenever it does that. Okay. Features, decentralization, fragmentation of American law enforcement. That's what the international people see. Most countries are very, very different from ours. We've talked about that already. Usually I use South Korea as a good parallel because it's a westernized country, different enough that you can see it differently from an outside perspective. Very small country, not even as big as a state. An entire group of people, you're basically talking about one ethnicity largely, like 90-something% Korean, of course, South Korea. Right? They have a centralized police force. They study ours. Theirs is centralized. They're smaller, so they can kind of get with it. Here, if you do that, what you end up doing is you increase the distance between the people themselves and those who are taking control. That comes with this field. And so most people want to see it run really, really well. We want it to run really, really poorly. That's the whole point. That's something people miss in that. I don't understand how that one gets missed, but it does. Basically what it is if you look at it, when we talk about the weights of good versus evil, the innocence versus guilt kind of thing, it always weighs so heavily towards the good, so heavily towards the innocence that, you know, eventually if we do it right, we get rid of the entire system, but that's not in our lifetimes. Basically what you get out here is that, power, that's what it is. Lost my train of thought now because there's so many different directions you can take. That distance is important. You need to have some outside perspective, but also that distance can be your greatest detriment. It's the same reason why if you're dealing with it at the individual level kind of thing, like you're actually a police officer going into incidences, that nature is right there too. It's like everything's always a little bit different all the time in our society. We take account for that, what that is. We don't want the system to run effectively. Why? Because we want things to be stable. If it runs effectively, we change things really, really quickly and not for the good. And you can see that over and over and over in history, right? Just look at the last 150 years of governmental structures across the world, right? You'll see as many deaths as what are sometimes estimated for all human wars across time. And realize that just government's killing people, not war. It's bad. It's like really bad. All right, so fragmentation, yes. We want people to have choices. So it's going to fragment because people like to go and do different things and categorize things and all kinds of stuff like that. Size, there's a whole bunch of agencies, a whole bunch of police officers. And that number is going to keep growing, of course. Here we go. Here's where it starts getting about size and scope. This is how they start to make the determination of how many officers you might need for an area to some degree. Because you start looking at the functions that you have and the need. What functions do you have that you need in an area? And then what support do you have? What kinds of, well, be support on the, like maybe taxation side, that kind of thing, or revenue or something like that, or that kind of thing. But it would be more like the need in the area. So how they do that? Well, here they just tell you about the total number of employees. Whenever you get that, it's going to include both sworn and non-sworn personnel. They'll break it up across different categories to get that information. Basically, what they do here, it says authorized strength, so it means retirements, resignations, termination. Most part, it's authorized strength. Those things are included there. What that is that's organizational. That's income. Basically, what you run into there is that there's a few different ways to do it. One of the common ways is basically looking sideways to find basically sister city, like you see in the face of it. And it's like, okay, Tahlequah was a town of 16,000. It's got these types of demographics or whatever, these types of industries in it, these types of crimes, these types of levels. Okay, if I compare across the United States, I can find an area that's somewhat similar in some ways, and I can use them to see how they're functioning. Are they handling things well? Yes, no. And how does it compare to what we're doing? Do they have more officers than us? Is that what the difference is? Maybe that's what the difference is. We'll increase the number of officers. That's how they do, one of the ways that they make those determinations for how many people is needed, how many people are needed, how many positions. As they do that, the retirements, resignations, and terminations, those go to things that typically, if you're dealing with budgetary stuff, they call those lapse dollars. Doesn't matter what field you're in. There's always going to be budgeted money for a position on an annual basis for any organization. That's how they have to chart it, how they have to function. So in that year, what will happen is that position has X number of dollars assigned to it. That's your salary for that position. That's the money that they're making. Only people change positions. Some people retire, some people resign, some people are fired, right? Or you might get promoted or whatever. So at some point in time, that position is going to be empty for a period of time. That money is still allotted there. What happens is that's called lapse dollars. So those are dollars that should have been spent but weren't. We're going to take that, we're going to put that somewhere else. It's usually what happens there. But realize that you have that money that's coming in on one side. On the other side, you have that position that's open. That's where I usually talk about organization stuff, where it's if you're going to rather leave the position open than fill it because the image of it of what your demographics are in the department, it's like you're doing it wrong. That's such a serious problem. It's like, I don't know how to function from that one. And you see that one a lot, and that comes up in some places from time to time. That's a big problem. All right. Sworn officers legally recognized as police officers. Basically, when you start getting into it is, they're sworn. That means they have some authority there. What that usually means is arrest authority, and that means full police officer kind of thing. But that can look differently in different places. What's the next slide? Civilianization. Trying to bring more people into the mix because people bring outside perspectives. It's that line between seeing an officer and seeing a person. Sometimes it doesn't matter how much you try, but they still won't see as a person, right? That happens all over the place. Whether you're a police officer or just a regular person, it's like there'll be spheres where that it doesn't really matter who or what you are. It's going to be, do they see you as one of them? And if you're not human. That's people too. That's very bad side of people. Yeah. Process of replacing sworn officers, non-sworn personnel for certain positions. So basically anything where you don't need to put hands on people kind of stuff. With that, you get more officers for that kind of work. You end up with people who are experts in those areas. One of the most interesting things in this field is sometimes you find experts who aren't in those areas. Right? It'd be like shooting competitions, right? Just as an example, that's a performance thing. I think about Olympics is why. Performative in nature. A lot of people do it. The Olympians, they're not going to be police officers. They might go on to be police officers, maybe, but typically, no, that's just a hobby kind of thing. They do other things, right? They're also, you save money if you get civilians. You do that as an organization. Police population ratio, standard measure for level of protection in the community. There's a number of officers per thousands of residents. So that's another way that they do it. They look at the population. That also cross-reference with other sister cities, that kind of thing. There's another way that they do it too, that they run at the same time. I can't remember what it is though, so we'll see if it mentions it. Let's see. Cost of police protection, billions of dollars. What does it cost every year? A few $100s every year. All right. And fragmentation. They call it fragmentation. I call it decentralization. They make it sound like a bad thing. It's not, it's called representation. That's not bad at all. You want that. That's individual choices across people, across multiple levels. That's why it breaks up like that. You get closer to individualization. You want to be free yourselves. That's how you do it. Sorry, that's a rant. It is an honest one, though. Okay. Because of your freedoms, you have a lack of coordination between agencies. Again, we don't want them to be effective. We want stability. If it moves too easily, it can move incorrectly. When it does that, the scales at play there exceed all human history every time, because it's right now and it's the entire future. Okay. We end up with is crime displacement. Okay, one agency increases their abilities or effectiveness or just does anything. Guess what? You affected everybody nearby because people move. All right. Alternatives to fragmentation, consolidation, basically public safety consolidation. There's different ways that they're talking about it. That kind of thing. Basically, you start getting into it. Is it on the social side or not? Or are you doing things like this? Contracting. You're going to formalize it. Like, that can be good, but realize the danger there of what you're doing is you risk building a structure so big it will crush everyone. You need it level, you need it flat, you need it as small as possible for it to be functional. You need it to butt out of your lives so that way you have the choices you can, but you also need it there to keep other people from taking your choices away. To some degree, this is a battle of will. Always remind me, I didn't ask this in this class, but I'll ask it now, but I'll give you the answer that I'm looking for because it's a funny thing that I usually only ask in the first week of classes. Sometimes I'll ask, what's your favorite superhero? The one I look for in this class is the Green Lantern. Why? They would have made him blue, but it would have just been too on the nose. Think about it. It's like, yeah, okay, there you go. What's he do? He's enacting will by, policing the universe. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's it. Okay, fragmentation issues. Expert police fragment not be as serious problems as yes. Yeah, small ones aren't necessarily less efficient. You're just less specialized. You'll have more generalists and you'll have specialists. You'll have people who have a wider range of abilities. They might not be able to do the same kinds of things. It's like they'll know how to work a knife, but not a scalpel, right? They'll know how to handle a situation, but they might not do as well on number crunching, filing a report, something like that. You can work with what you have. Okay. Municipal police, that's 70% of law enforcement, 60% of all police officers. Okay, we'll talk a little about organizational stuff again. Whenever you look at any organization, I mentioned this before. One of the assignments I have you doing here is look at budget stuff a little bit so we can see it. You look at budgets, you can see where that money's flowing, kind of thing. Here's where it starts to see if it comes up. That's where they get this information. First one is your biggest expense for any organization ever is going to be people. People are the most expensive thing. Right? Always. It's going to be those that you employ. All that kind of stuff. That's going to take up anywhere from, usually it's about 80% of your budget for any organization. Like whether you're looking at police departments at any level, it's like almost 80% is going to be right there, just in terms of money going into people. Next biggest thing is gonna be maintenance, just trying to keep everything running. Everything else on that is on top, trying to grow, maybe. Could be a waste. It does. That thing goes in a negative direction as it grows. It doesn't grow, it shrinks, right? Does police operate on a countywide basis? Yeah, so this is what they're making a comparison. So municipal police versus county level. They're not like municipal police. That's a bad comparison. There you go. They're starting to get it down there when they start talking about sheriffs. You start talking about county police, you're talking about the sheriffs, you're talking about deputies and that kind of stuff. They've got a different role. They're a different animal. They are built into history. If I said the Shire, did I make a joke about that in here before? Oh, that's a good one. Okay, we'll deal with that one then. Right? If I said Robin Hood, who is his arch nemesis? Oh. Okay. Recommendation. You guys like humor? Robin Hood, you need to watch a film. You like humor? It's Mel Brooks. Robin Hood Men in Tights, hilarious. Because they're historically depicted as men in tights when not what it was, but they rip on that a lot. It's like we're men in tights. We're going around having fights, but you dress the same. Yeah. Really funny one. But there's a whole bunch of depictions that are more violent, kind of things like violent movies. His enemy, the sheriff of Nottingham, whatever it's called. Right? It's Nottingham? I don't know. I like that word. It's not right. Yeah, not. The sheriff. He's a shire reed, is the word. It's like I had a mentor of mine. He's talking about I'm gonna misspell this word. Gilly. That's not how you spell it. It's actually what is it, French? Something like that. Or is it Old English? I can't remember. Basically what it is people who dress up like the swamplands kind of thing and hide to be able to pick people off, pick animals off, that kind of stuff. Or you get your ghillie suits. You guys know what a ghillie suit is? That's the one that you see snipers wear that looks like they're covered in moss and stuff like that. It's to blend in. Historic fun. Shire reed. Basically, they're different than municipal policing. They have a lot of the same functions. They can arrest you and enforce the law at the county level. So they have a greater territory. They also run the jails. They're technically the most powerful police officer in there. So it's like, yeah, they're elected too. Most, well, don't want to get in that argument. But there you go. Starts talking about that. That's really what you're talking about. This thing doesn't really exist. County police, nah, that's 1% of all. Nah, no. Here's what you're talking about. This is the real one. Yeah, legal status, union because responsibility are in state. That's why it's the most powerful. State sovereignty. Your state's more powerful than the federal government, technically, even though it's subservient to the federal government. They want to keep power at the lowest levels. That's why they'll put you at the bottom and the top. Sheriffs are elected or appointed, and they serve all three components, to include running jails, right? Court security, all of that stuff. Other things that can come in. There's more than just this, but these are some examples. Constantly, basically, you're talking about limited authority kind of thing. Very specifically defined. Works in the court system with county commissioners, county coroners, other things like that. Regulations there vary quite a bit, right? Investigate crimes employed by state, county, or city, depending on your area, which one you pull in. The more rural it is, the wider level it gets, so given the state level kind of stuff. Coroners not trained physicians and are elected to their positions. So that's kind of interesting. Determining cause of death don't necessarily have to be trained physicians. Medical examiners are appointed to receive special training. That's where you start getting into that. They investigate 20% of deaths in the United States. We need an actual medical investigator. You want to see the power and authority associated with that. The thing you need to watch after this thing is this documentary, Boys on the Track. That one you can find on YouTube for free. It'll come in probably, if you find the right one, I think it's in a couple, like 2 or 3 parts. Basically, it's about a county in Arkansas whose train tracks was found to have 3 bodies of children. Medical examiner ruled it an accident, even though those kids were beaten and were they dismembered? Is that what it was? I can't remember. Guns were found at the scene that no one ever saw again, and a bunch of other stuff. Where it's very quickly becomes apparent that that person who was involved in making those determinations as to what happened related to those deaths was lying, because he was the one who was lying. Anyone who was on that side, free pass at murder. Special district police, tribal police. You guys are familiar with those kinds of things. Won't talk to everybody about it. You're also familiar with state and highway patrol. You know what those look like. Pink. There you go. Not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. You guys are familiar with that. Law enforcement agencies at the federal level. It's big, but not nearly as big as the other one, the local ones. Right? Then it starts talking about September 11th when things started changing. Right? Talk a little bit about that and be like asking you about things like the 1970s. If I said something like cultural changes, that 2001 is a huge one. What ends up happening is the American population for the first time is determined that it would rather be safe than free. That's what that is. There is no safety. There's no safety at all. But that's what we do. We do have to take care of those issues. And so this is potentially a good way to do it. What it does is it risks that privacy, freedom, all that good stuff. Hey, welcome to that double-edged sword again. Reorganized basically almost the entire federal structure and how things were handled because of it. It's a big change. Right? That happened formally the following year in 2002. That's why they have the post 2001. Most of that stuff happened almost instantly, kind of thing. On the unofficial level, they started making those changes, but the official act followed to formalize it. Also, one of those things, if you actually really get into it, it's like, good golly, conspiracy theories abound. I'll talk about that for a quick second because if you actually look at it, the federal government was fully aware of the person who was behind those planes flying into the buildings on that day. And years before, they were notified of that person's specific intent to get planes and fly them into buildings. Communication is a difficult thing. Okay, Department of Homeland Security, largest ones are CBP, ICE, Protective Services, Secret Service. Now, those are all hot topics as of late, yes? Think about things in the social sphere. What's going on with any of those? We got about 15 minutes. What's going on with those things? Border Patrol, Customs, Protective Services, Secret Service. Anything big going on there? Really? All kinds of big stuff. Really? Yeah. And this is how bad communication is. That's what that is. It's because there's so much information being pumped out everywhere all of the time. It's hard to see what actually matters. If I said what was it? It was one of the top people in the Border Patrol. I need to look it up. It's a fairly recent story. But there was one of like an assistant director of one of these organizations had stated, yes, it is 300,000 unaccompanied minors in the last year have been lost. How many years? Maybe it's more than 1 year. I hope it's more than 1 year. God, please tell me it's more than 1 year. It might not be. 300,000 kids passed through the border and our immigration services and did not have a parent. And we don't know where they're at in this country. So the number of sex slaves in this country just increased by over $250,000 or 250,000 people. Maybe. We don't know. That's how bad it is. And you don't even know that happened, right? And all of you listening probably don't either because they hide that shit on purpose. Because it's bad. It's like, it's really bad. The Secret Service stuff. It's like, okay, you did have an assassination attempt not too long ago. What happened? They silenced the story. They started questioning whether the person was even shot. Was there even a bullet? It's like, don't believe your lying eyes. If you do a freeze frame on it, you can see it yourself. But it's lying. It might not be that. It's like, yeah, different issue. It's the communication thing. Communication is the big one. This one is they don't want to communicate when things do go wrong. We have to watch that. That's our charge. It's people. Next, okay. Four largest departments of the Department of Justice, four largest agencies, not departments, because it is a department. You know those. DEA, everybody loves drugs. They also love force. Especially putting those things together. I'm going to force some drugs. No, I'm just kidding. FBI, Bureau of Investigation. You guys should know a little about the history about it, its development, that kind of thing. But we'll talk about that. ATF. Really, it's ATFE, alcohol, tobacco, firearms, explosives. That's my favorite one. Okay, you got alcohol, you got tobacco, you got firearms and explosives. The only thing you don't have are drugs and rock and roll. You have drugs in a different organization. Okay, so we got that. That's too bad. They moved that one over to here, then it's the best organization ever. It's got everything. They just move the drugs on. Because drugs are that big a damn problem. U.S. Marshal Service. You know, you're basically reverse policing agencies itself. Right? Okay. New things that have been happening over the last couple of generations. Private security. The private sector. Ooh. That one's not always so good. Fine. Now they're buying and selling your ability to operate in society. With no, well, I should say no. With the liabilities, responsibilities in place, police officers not applying at all. Police officer throws you in cuffs, puts you in the back of a squad, throws you in the trunk. Let's say that, throws you in the trunk of a squad car. You know that's at the end of the day, if you survive, that's going to be a huge payout because you know just how much you've been wrong. Should it work? That's the other thing. Sometimes it doesn't. But you know that that's wrong and that's going to work out in your favor as a patient, kind of thing. These people do it. I mean, you can sue them maybe individually. You're not going to be getting anywhere the treatment that you should because that's just an individual doing it. And now you have a prosecutor who's going to make that determination as to whether or not they actually did kidnap you and forcibly confine you. Well, you were in their place to begin with. Do I really want to punish them? How much do I like this person versus you who got thrown in the trunk? That's a hell of a thing. Minimum standards, American style. That's how we do it. Minimum standards. Okay, I want to be an ass for a minute. I like it. Okay. Since when it started this way, I'm going to talk a little bit about this. People in general, no matter what field you're in, no matter what job you have, the warm body thing is a very real one. These are positions that have people in it, and they need to have people in it. So sometimes that need is so high that are you a warm body, right? Yeah, it's like basically we start dealing with this aptitude and aptitude. You don't want to be inept. Ideally, you'll be apt. You'll have some ability, and maybe not. Here, what I start doing is looking at the aggregate scale. We don't have a national police system. Yes, we do not want a national police system. Okay, think of all the power, of all the distance of all of that structure involved in the federal government. And now you have the ability to issue orders directly onto the streets themselves. It's a very dangerous thing. That'd be like saying, we're going to give one person, we'll make him president, authority to execute its citizens in any circumstance, no trial at all. How wrong is that? Let's get from 10. How wrong is that? We're going to let it 10. Okay. You guys online, let's actually stop and ask that as a question for a second, because now that's on my mind, that's an important one. Okay, Sheriff of Nottingham. There you go. I like that. I didn't see that before. Didn't mean that. All right. So in the chat, if you can, give me a number from 1 to 10. How bad would it be if we allowed, if we gave the president the authority to kill its citizens without a trial at all? Because they are the number one person. I mean, they are president. How bad is it? How bad would it be? Got a 10. I got a 10. I had 3 10s. Anyone else want to sound off? 9, 10. It's not the worst thing. Okay. Some think it is the worst thing. I can't tell if it's the worst thing or not. That's how bad it is. It might be, right? And what have we done? We've gone right back to God Kings. Thank God for that. No, it's awful. Yeah, more tenant stuff. Realize we already do that. All you have to do is get outside the boundaries of the country itself. I can point to you where it crosses, one family crosses political lines where you'll see both red and blue have both authorized the extrajudicial murders of US citizens in different countries. That's going to intersect that terrorist thing. Realize that one of those was 16, I think, at the time, so that's a juvenile. One of those was accidental. That's a daughter that was 8 years old. We did that, both sides. You wonder why we're hated across the world. That's probably one of those reasons. Okay. Yeah, 10, it's the worst thing. And we do it. And you don't think it that way because it's not presented that way, ever. It's going to be this terrorist person over here that you're supposed to hate. Don't hate anybody. Love everyone. You do that and then watch as all those problems start to get really clear to you because it's like, I don't hate that person. Why are you trying to make me to? Yeah. All right. Here was American style. Some federal governments for minimum standards for law enforcement agencies. Yes. Basically, we start dealing with the state level regulations, that kind of stuff, because those vary at the state level. Some will be more structured than others. For example, OSBI here, Oklahoma State Bureau of Investigations. They're like a central repository for a lot of numbers. They track all that stuff. That's something that's unique to the state to some degrees. Other states might not have that kind of an organization. What they might have is, hey, that service is actually busted out across all the different agencies, and they have to do that kind of stuff directly with maybe the federal government reporting numbers, that kind of thing. Okay. Role of state governments. Minimum standards, yeah, whatever. Choose state constitutions. Licensing and certification of sworn officers. That's a big one, right? How do we check? How do we gatekeep for this field? That's one of those ways. Of course, you have all the hiring stuff associated too, and then time itself. Okay. Accreditation is a voluntary process because we don't force anything. They identify it as a weakness. Is it a weakness? Yes, it is also a strength, meaning if we do something wrong in one area, it doesn't spread. That's nice. You need those fire breaks. Process becoming accredited is expensive. Boy, howdy. Okay. Now, take a look and see what's in chapter. Is it 4? We're cooking with gas. I like it. That was chapter 3. Chapter 4. Like I said, most of this stuff, once we get cooking, we start moving pretty fast through some of the stuff because it's based off of those foundational principles we're talking about the last couple of weeks. Once you understand how those work, it's that same logic structure you might have heard me talk about, maybe in here, maybe in law, or maybe in methods, because I'll do it in all those areas just a little bit differently. Download. Can't tell you, usually it does a little pop-up thing over here. Yeah. Okay. This one, police organizations. Okay, here's where they start talking about organizations. It's a little earlier than I remembered. Okay. Right here. Boom. We'll share screen. Okay, so this is chapter 4. This is also available in Blackboard, all that good stuff. So now we're moving into more organizational stuff. So it starts out, you basically start dealing with professionalism. You know, from a historical point, they pick up with that because that's what most people think whenever they see the police. They think the uniform, that kind of thing. Realize that there's, wherever there's history, there's going to be biases. Wherever there's issues with responsibility, liability, and having to act, there's a lot of issues. This one, what it does is it gives you, to some degree, it says quasi-military style. What they want to do is they want to give you the appearance of legitimacy, that you are a legitimate force here, that you should be listened to, but they do not want it to be the military, right? See the 1960s. If I said Kent State, how many of you recognize Kent State? You recognize the name Kent State? No. I'm going to ask that one to you guys too, because that's the time frame that's coming up next. Not being Nostradamus here, it's just if you look at time and you look at history and what it does, Buford doesn't the Bigman. I do good. Good. That V for Vendetta is a really good movie. Remember the 5th of November, the gunpowder treason and plot. I can think of no reason that the gunpowder treason should ever be forgot. That's Guy Fawkes. He's gonna try to blow up Parliament because they were evil. Oh, he got killed. Oh yeah, yeah, I remember him. I lost my train of thought with that one. Took me way off. Oh, military stuff. Kent State. How many of you have ever heard of what happened in these 1960s in Kent State? If you have, just say yes. If you haven't, say no. And I'm watching that. And I'm going to be looking for at least 5 people to respond online. Got one yes. That surprises me. That's good. I mean, someone's been talking to you. Because that's something that's like those type of conversations. Sometimes I come up with class thing, what classes you take. Usually what happens is that someone will come up with a conversation at some point in time. Race riots of the 1960s. Talking from there, I can't remember the specifics of Kent State, but to kind of give it a kind of context. We talk about the same time that you're having riots because we're now allowing blacks into the schools, the white schools. Oh gosh, now you're dealing with people and how hateful they are. My God, the hate never changes. It just changes different targets. That's the part we need to work on, but that's a different story. Kent State. If you look it up, you'll see images of the military on the college campus. Basically what happened was there were protests about those race relations, and people were going there to, well, let their side be known. And things got violent. The military was brought in to keep peace. Military does what military does. They kill people. Unarmed college students. Yeah. Why? Because they were standing. Right? Out of that same time period, you get the concept of flower power. You're not familiar with what that is. You've seen it before. If I were to show you an image of a rifle being pointed at someone's face and they're sticking a flower in it, fine. You got to let it go and ain't moving. That's America. Right? In a heartbeat, boiled down in its most pure element right there. That's off topic though. That military structure is what I should be talking about. That's the other side. That thing's dangerous. That's what we're trying not to get in policing. You don't want a military. This is not a police state. Police states hell. Right? And so you can see arguments are being, Vietnam War protests. Is that what it was? I can't remember. I know it's about the same time because Vietnam was going on about the same time as all that other stuff. Are you talking late 60s, early 60s? Are you talking in the court systems? Because like a little bit later, it's stuff in the court systems. Oh my goodness. But yeah, it was a time of change. It happens every few decades. Ready? It's a big one. Can you stand in position and not be moved if you don't need to move? Military is really good at moving things. They'll use force. We don't want to do that. Old lesson there. One you guys should have very familiar in your minds. Okay. Hierarchical, authoritarian. That's what you get with that. You will follow my orders. If you take methods at some point, we'll talk about the Milgram experiment. It'll show you just the degree to which people will follow orders. Most everyone will go all the way to death at just the slightest beckon. This must continue. Go ahead, click the button. Oh, now they're dead. Good job. You killed them. Yeah. Now, guess what? They carry deadly weapons in this field. Most people do too sometimes, at different times. Yeah. You get with that military structure. Go ahead, do the next one. Us versus them and war. You guys already did this too. Everyone does this at first, right? When you think of the police, you think of something separate. When you think of people, you think of something separate. When I say, what's the police's role, police's role in society? Citizen, number one. It's the last thing that people think of if they think of it. If they think of it, they separate those things out so cleanly that they don't see them as people to some degree. Right? Police do the same thing because they're trying to deal with crime. And so now they've got something to fight, which gives them all the energy they need to move forward. Right? And so now you're left to the wills of what good people will do and what they won't. We'll pick up there next time. Have you guys will both do good and do well. Right? All right. Have a great day. I will catch you guys on Wednesday. I hope you enjoyed class. We'll pick up there with next time. Make sure to go through Blackboard because, like I said, I opened up the first 4 chapters there. We're in chapter 4 already. This will be out there. I can't remember if there's an assignment out there, but if there isn't, and there's supposed to be, there will be soon. I'm going to actually take a look now that I've mentioned it. I got it up right here. Just hold on 1 second. Yeah, I have an assignment out there. What is it? Yes, that's actually a good one. So this one's really simple. I'll show you guys real quick. You're still here. Left out, that's fine. You'll see it when you get on here. Assignment 1 is some basic questions because what I'm testing there is inferences. What inferences did you get from that kind of thing? Quiz right here should be unlimited. 25 questions, 1 point each, 25 points for both of those things. With that, I will catch you guys next class period. Have a great day. Thank you. Have a good one. Bye.
Hey, I had a question.
Yeah, go right ahead.
I wasn't able to make class on Wednesday for this one or the next one. I noticed the videos aren't posted yet. Will those be up soon?
Yes, those will be up. I would say that they'll be up probably. I'm trying to think what my schedule is going to be like. Probably within the next like 3 to 5 hours. I started trying to download them last night at home. Had a wild weekend, so I wasn't able to download it and upload them on Wednesday because apparently there's a set number if you can load them to YouTube in any given day. I didn't realize that, and so I hit that number, and then I couldn't upload those, and so it's a new day, so I can upload them. It's just at home it's real slow, and I haven't been here since Wednesday last week. Really, I think I was here a little bit on Thursday, maybe I don't really remember. Long hard weekend, but I'll have those up. Probably within 5 hours. This one will take a little longer because it takes a little bit of time for the Zoom to process it and make it available. And that's why it usually lags by a day. And then if it's something where like life's just getting crazy, it might be a few days before I get it up. So it might be, like I said, you might come into this class before you get to see the last one. Sorry about that. I'm trying to work on that. It's just good golly, life's hard. Just been the last like 2 weeks. Not last week. Last week was hard for different reasons, but 2 ER visits in 1 week. And that's standard. We have by default, we actually counted this month how many doctor's visits are in a single month. They're just by schedule. It was 30, right? The medical stuff. And so it's like managing that plus ER visits plus hospital stays plus surgery and all that kind of stuff in the last year. It's been rough. But time is a very difficult thing. Make sure you plan well because chance favors the prepared. Otherwise, yeah. Well, welcome to methods anyway. So that's good lead in for that one. Hopefully that answers your question. It should only take a little bit, but it is taking longer than I'd like.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. With that, we'll sign off for today and we'll pick up next time. Catch you later. Bye.